Ladies and gentlemen, our next session addresses one of the most critical challenges in the maritime industry: reskilling senior seafarers. Staying relevant in the changing landscape and aligning training to meet the IMO 2030 strategy. As technology evolves and regulatory frameworks become more stringent, it's vital that our experienced professionals continue to enhance their skills and remain competitive alongside younger, tech-savvy counterparts. Well, in this discussion, we will explore the need for standardized, future-focused training programs that not only uphold international regulations, but also foster sustainability in our operations. Our goal is to identify strategies for effective upskilling and ensure that senior seafarers are empowered to lead and adapt in this dynamic environment. Well, allow me to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed panel. Well, our moderator from MMS Maritime India, a maritime leader and an educationist and the winner of the Sagar Ratna Award yesterday, whose extensive experience in operations and compliance has been instrumental in shaping key industry policies and training programs. Please welcome Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani. Next, from GESCO, a seasoned maritime professional with over 3 decades of experience in regulatory affairs, ship management and training, and a respected voice in global maritime forums. Let's all welcome Mr. Sunil Kumar from GESCO. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all applaud. Our next dignitary on stage, a distinguished expert in fleet management renowned for optimizing crew operations and enhancing workforce efficiency, Captain Manoj Gandhi from Seaspan. Let's all welcome, sir. Next we have from FMIRO Kolkata, who brings invaluable insights from his extensive experience in maritime training and education. Please welcome Captain Nirmalya Karmakar. Thank you so much, sir. Well, next from FMIRO Noida, excuse me, recognized for his leadership in modernizing training initiatives for senior seafarers. Let's all welcome Captain Gurprasad Kohli from FMIRO. No, check. All right. Let's welcome our next dignitary. Well, Mr. Vineet Gupta, an MD at Anglo-Eastern Ship Management India, a dynamic leader in crew training and operations with nearly 3 decades of industry expertise. Let's welcome Mr. Vineet Gupta on stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I now hand over the stage to our moderator, Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani, to lead the essential conversation, and please join me in welcoming him on stage as well.
Okay, gentlemen, can we have a seat, please?
Nani on stage.
So first of all, I think thank you to Captain Shaukat and as well as to his company MCN for arranging this particular event. I think it's something which makes news all over the country, and it is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be able to moderate this discussion with such big luminaries from the industry. You know, the topic of the panel which they are going to discuss on is reskilling senior seafarers so that they stay relevant in a changing landscape and aligning training to meet the IMO 2030 strategy. Now, this is something which is which it's a very, very broad kind of a thing, and at the same time, it is something which is very specific as well. So my job is to alternate between making it broad enough so that we have a lot of things to discuss, and at the same time to be able to converge it down into something which is more specific so that we are able to draw up and identify some kind of an action plan to be able to move further. In today's time, the industry that has connected our world for centuries is transforming rapidly through digitalization, automation, and the imperativeness for environmental sustainability. At the heart of this transformation are our senior seafarers, experienced mariners who have accumulated vast knowledge through decades of service, yet now face the challenge of adapting to unprecedented technological and regulatory changes. For the purposes of our discussion today, with the kind permission and consent of our panel, we define senior seafarers as those who are maritime professionals who have accumulated substantial experience, typically holding management level positions as officers or supervisory roles as ratings with at least 10 years of sea service and 5 years in their current rank. These are the professionals who have mastered traditional maritime operations but must now navigate the waters of rapid technological advancement. The IMO 2030 strategy, with its ambitious environmental goals, only accelerates this transition, creating both challenges as well as opportunities for experienced maritime professionals. Today, our distinguished panelists will explore how we can honor the invaluable experience of our senior seafarers while equipping them with the new competencies essential for tomorrow's maritime industry. So, with this kind of an introduction, and with your permission and with the permission of the panel, I would like to start off with this entire discussion. So let us not waste too much of time, because Shaukat has told me that he is reducing our time. So we'll have to just, move very fast. So let me ask the first question to Mr. Sunil Kumar. Mr. Sunil Kumar, having recently attended the IMO's STW11 meeting, what key takeaways can you share regarding future competency requirements for senior seafarers, particularly in alignment with the IMO 2030 strategy? And also, may I request you, with the IMO emphasizing the human element, how can the maritime industry modernize the various training programs to ensure senior seafarers remain adaptable to the demands of the very fast rate of transitions, including the challenges of digitalization and sustainability requirements?
Thank you, Mr. Bhavnani. I had the privilege to attend the recent STW11, which happened last month from 10th to 14th of February. And what was done there, and that is the takeaway, was to first identify the gaps, the learning gaps, competency gaps, which is currently prevailing. So around 500 plus gaps were identified. And that was the phase one, the gap identification. Just prior to that, in the month of October, we had intersessional working group. I could attend that as well. And that was the initiation of gap identification, which culminated in STW11. And those gaps which were identified has moved to phase 2, and phase 2 will commence sometime in February of 2026. In between, there will be certain correspondence group which will work throughout on the gaps that have been identified. So primarily, what are the gaps that have been identified? Basically, the technology has shifted leaps and bounds, and for each 3 years of shift of technology, the training requirement is of 10 years. Like, to catch up with the 3 years modernization of technology, you need 10 years of training to bridge the gap. So the takeaways were that how do we now bridge these gaps. Train the trainer, use of AR, VR, all these things were discussed, I mean, in length. It was a 5-day meeting. I cannot dwell too much on that, but yeah. Major focus remained on digitalization and the maximizing the use of augmented reality and virtual reality simulators. These elements and the competency table needs to be now enhanced to include these trainings going forward and bridge the gaps that have been identified. I mean, of course, each gap will be discussed in length in the upcoming ISWG, which will happen in February 2026. The total timeline for the entire thing, now looking at the voluminous work, is now set at 2031. But the apprehension is that by 2031, again, the technology will move further by another 5 years. And how do we cater to those training requirements? So it's an ongoing challenge. There's no concrete solution immediately, but we have to keep discussing and keep emerging with solutions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think thank you very much for that. And that's a very excellent point which you make. We have to try and catch our own shadows, one way or the other. Huh? And I think one very important point which you raise is changing the mindset of the seafarers. Training is all right, 3 years of technology change resulting in at least a minimum period of 10 years of training. That sounds like a very daunting task, if I may say. But I think what's important here is changing the mindset of the various seafarers. So let me now just pose this question to Captain Karmakar. What are the challenges and apprehensions of the senior seafarers which you believe would exist in the face of emerging technologies and regulations?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you, sir, for the question. As Mr. Sunil has already highlighted the emerging technologies, and the Germans have called it almost a decade ago that this is the 4th industrial revolution after steam, electricity, and computers. And our STCW, we are still trying to catch up. And this is where there is a large gap in the working and the training environments which are available today for seafarers. And this is away from the traditional methods, which we can say the 40-plus generation has been doing in their lifetime. There is obviously a perceived threat of job losses, which is absolutely real, sir. Because with steam, there was job loss. With electricity, there was job loss. And then again, with computers, there was job loss. Mindset misalignments, as you have rightly pointed out, the risk of losing control of something that we are not able to understand, something that we are not familiar with, is very, very real. These three, I guess, the feeling of becoming obsolete, the feeling of losing my job, and the non-familiarity with the systems, I guess these are the major challenges to the old seafarers, if I may put it like that. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And then thank you for that. So that brings us actually to the next question now. So I'll seek comments from Captain Kohli here. Just taking this particular discussion forward, what training methodologies have proven most effective or likely to prove effective in helping senior seafarers adapt to the new technologies while leveraging on their extensive experience?
Thank you for having us here. I'm going to pick up on a few things I've heard over the last 1.5 days from the distinguished audience out here and the participants. The difference between training and learning, as Chinna said. There's a lot of human element in learning and training, as Karan had mentioned yesterday. Sanjay Vakil talked about training being available anywhere, every time, and it should be a lot of fun. So when you talk about what training methods would be easily adopted by the industry and the senior seafarers, what I would look at is a mix of practical and simulation and theory. And this should be something which should be game-based, which should be fun, and which should be readily available. Because everybody who is sailing today is so conscious of the time that he has at home to spend with the family that they want to spend the minimum amount of time on training. The training should be relevant. Now, there is a lot of training courses which are mandated for post-sea courses, etc., by DG Shipping, which are including certain elements, not necessarily anybody's fault here, but because the way regulations are evolving very slowly, which are not relevant. Whereas the ship owner, the ship managers, the charters, etc., want something which is a lot more relevant. So there has to be a mix between the 2 or 3 or 4 stakeholders to create training which is relevant to the particular seafarer. Let's not burden him with so much of training, and lot of which is irrelevant. So that is very important. And then the other very interesting point is we talk about training, and when we were trying to define senior seafarers, it was very nice that you included support level seafarers with a certain amount of experience. And I was very pleased to see today during the Cochin Shipyard presentation that Maersk is spending a lot of time on reskilling their fitters and welders, etc. Now, this is the kind of an approach we need across the industry, because the support level, at least as per DG Shipping guidelines, does not require any kind of revalidation training as far as the Indian services are concerned. And of course, the most important part of reskilling and retraining is how are they going to be dealing with a generation that speaks a language which is slightly different, which has a comprehension of authority and command, which is slightly different, which is today a lot more knowledge is available at their fingertips. So I think it will be very prudent to add at this point, we need to spend a lot more time on HR and human skilling. Today, our revalidation course, sorry to say, does not even have 1 hour of reskilling, HR training included in that. Our SMS course has barely an hour for HR skills, which I think needs to be changed because we are dealing with a different person in the room now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an excellent point which you make. Having a collaborative learning environment which can be applied on board almost directly is what is the need of the hour. We should not really dilute our efforts to go in a direction which is different from this. So then thank you for that. Now let me just come to Captain Gandhi, and I'll focus more on the industry-related aspects. We have heard the people, we have heard from the various regulatory aspects, we've heard from the 2 training institutes. Let's look at the industry now. So then, Captain Gandhi, how are shipping companies currently addressing the reskilling needs of their experienced crew members in preparation for IMO 2030 strategy requirements?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's very pertinent. If we look at it, just for the audience sake, it means by 2030 we have to reduce the carbon footprint by 40%, measuring from 2008. So that's the order that IMO wants. Thereafter, of course, we have to get carbon neutral also by 2050. So coming to it, alternate fuels is one of the initiatives that the industry has taken. Now, that is like we have gone in for LNG fuel. Now, when you use LNG, now we've taken 25 ships. So as my panelist was talking about augmented reality, that's what we used at. We looked at the gap. Dual fuel bunkering is one of the big gaps. So we used that tool to prepare, a proper step-by-step model of how to bunker an LNG vessel. And it's available on an app. is provided on the mobile to the joiners. It is available on the tab, on a tablet, on the ship, and that's how you do it. So that's an example that I gave. Similarly, if you look at other things also, new builds, if it is, the best and the best person who can teach you is the manufacturer. So you ask for added owner benefits from the manufacturer. And with that, you send your trainers, you send your first batch, second batch, and third batch of people, your seniors who are going to join the ship. And when they go on board the ship, after being taught by the manufacturers, surely they can do a good job. So that's a few items that we use, how we're bridging this gap. Thank you.
Yeah, that's indeed very, very important, because the industry has to keep up pace and has to make sure that, the vessels are operated the way they are supposed to be. And no kind of a knowledge or a skill gap can afford to be allowed to persist. Now let me just extend this further and we go on to what the future outlook could be. So let me pose this question to Mr. Vineet Gupta. Looking ahead, how can the maritime industry transform the challenges of reskilling senior seafarers into a strategic advantage for implementing the IMO 2030 decarbonization and the digitalization goals?
I think the industry is already preparing for these things for a quite long time. Unfortunately, whatever solutions have been found or being worked upon at the moment are all transiting situations. 2 years back, if you just go and talk about the scrubbers, they were the talk of the town. They're all phased out completely now. We trained a lot of people onto the scrubbers. There are no more scrubbers. They are there. They're going to be phased out. Most likely, they are burdened now on the people. So the whole thing is, you are using ammonia, was a very in thing a couple of years back. Now talking about ethane, methane, ethanol, methanol, and all kind of things are being talked about. So everything is changing continuously, rapidly. So training also has to be catching up with all these things. We are in a state of confusion at the moment. Somebody's opting for one type of fuel, second company is opting for second type of fuel, one particular shipyard is giving you one solution, other people are giving other solutions. You can't make seafarers do all the trainings, So we have to train people on the go as the particular type of technology being used. We are doing it. The companies, the shipping companies, the management of the companies are dealing with on the daily basis. Simulators is the best way of training people nowadays. I mean, I always like to believe seafarers are capable lot. I just want to quote a small thing. We were talking in the morning before the session started. One of our colleagues, seafarer, a captain who started as a cadet on the ship, he now heads the Mumbai airport complete construction. See, from where he has landed where? It means the potential of our people is very, very great. We have to just provide the right environment of training to them, and they will definitely learn, catch up, and deliver. Every boy and girl sitting in this room, a cadet sitting in this room, has a potential. So we have to provide the right environment. Right environment can be provided by giving him the same work environment which is going to face on the vessel in terms of the simulator, which is also applicable for the senior people. Senior people are not the ones who are phasing out. They still have but they have the capacity to understand faster and better, and they can learn also along with it. You look at the technologies which have come recently, like the WhatsApp and everything. Who has taught them? They've learned on their own. We all use it. Our grandfather also used it. So people will learn very, very fast, provided you give them in a simple way of learning. Somebody already mentions it should be a fun learning. It should not be a burden learning. It should be easily available, simply available on your handheld tools, and people will learn irrespective of what the age brackets are. It is not a problem. We will have to trust them, and we have to provide them the right environment, and it will be all taken care of. Seafarers are capable lot, and they have always evolved with the time from the coal to the oil, and now to something else. They will survive. There's no way they will not phase out. Elderly, senior, everybody will learn. We have to just provide the right environment. That's all we have to do. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if I may just sum up what you said, I think what we need to do is we need to transform this entire business of reskilling from a compliance exercise into a knowledge capture opportunity. And that way we can accelerate the industry-wide progress towards achieving the IMO 2030 goals. Seafarers have a lot of ability. Seafarers have adapted so many times in the past. We cannot really doubt them for this particular trait of this. And we need to put them in the right environment, as you said, and automatically the required objective can be achieved to a very large extent. Thank you for that. So let me now just come back onto the regulatory aspect, and I will ask a question now to Mr. Sunil Kumar. So we spoke about what the IMO is doing, so let's probably just go a bit further in that direction. How do you think IMO is addressing the potential skill gap between the current STCW requirements and the rapidly evolving technological demands being placed on the senior seafarers?
Thank you for this question. So this time, total of 75 papers were submitted at IMO, out of which 17 was from India, proudly the largest number. So
that deserves a very big applause, huh?
yeah. And I had the privilege to put up 6 papers.
Oh, wow. That deserves a bigger applause, huh?
Thank you so much. And I was going through all the papers, and the 2 things which drew my attention, which was talking something really new and not the repetitive type of things. One was lifelong learning framework. So the concept, and the other one was, I'll elaborate both of them depending on the time. And another one was time-based certification to competency-based certification. So these 2 papers drew my attention, and they were all talking about absolute, not absolute, but to quite an extent, a very innovative thought. The first is lifelong learning framework. So in that, it is it's primarily good for our senior seafarers, in which all the stakeholders, right from institute, ship owner and seafarer, they have to be in a loop, and a lot of digital interventions are required, in which we are not telling them to, okay, keep attending the courses one after the other. Self-paced learning primarily is at the key, at the bottom. Of course, it's very well designed paper. I mean, I would request members here present to go through that paper. It's uploaded on the IMO website. Another one was from time frame based competency to time frame based certification to competency based certification. So currently, if you see, most of the training courses are having so many hours of learning, like you have to undergo so many hours of this topic, so many hours of this. I mean, can we really justify that? So from there, they are suggesting, a paper was suggesting that go with competency-based certification. That means if you have acquired that competency, then your training is considered completed. But how will we do that? So that is possible on simulator. Like you have learned and you have demonstrated a rectification of a fault. A fault is created, you have been able to rectify that fault. You have proven that you have acquired that kind of competency. So based on this fundamental philosophy, the paper has been developed, and this was talked about at IMO, and probably in going forward in upcoming STW meetings, probably these 2 things probably will take shape, and that's where probably the future lies. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I'm sure all these initiatives being taken by the IMO will be taken forward by our administration here, and it will address these gaps in the competencies as they may exist. And also then basis that identify the various technological aspects which are required, out of which simulators could be one, and there could be other aspects also. so that the senior seafarers' knowledge can be retained and at the same time be enhanced accordingly to meet with the various demands. So now going further, let me now go on to Captain Karmakar. How do you think the senior seafarers can be motivated and their onboarding facilitated towards automation, AI, and cloud-based technologies through training?
Thank you, sir, for the question. I would just like to pick up the points which have been raised by our panelists here. Sir has raised self-motivation. That is what I can say, to adapt and to adopt the new technology so that we remain relevant. That is what we can say, the job-based motivation part. And sir has raised here what is lifelong learning, Ajivan Vidyarthi. That is what we can say, self-motivation part. So these two are the basis on which we can utilize these new technologies which are coming in. As we know that all technologies are meant to be decision-making tools. They are supposed to assist decision-making. Captain Bajaj in his Vatsila presentation yesterday has very nicely highlighted that critical thinking will be essential at some stage when we have automation, when we have AI coming into the picture. And this was highlighted about maybe like 10 years ago when Shell presented a video regarding what they called as the chronic unease. This chronic unease is possible in persons, so the persons will have the job. So this is something that I think should be a motivator. Secondly, AI is collective knowledge, and collective knowledge will help in taking collective decisions. Collective decision making is always better than individual decisions, and this is should be another motivator for people to take up the emerging technologies so that we have more efficient and better decision making rather than individual. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just to extend it a bit further, do you feel that there could be specific barriers from the senior seafarers when they are required to shift from established practices of learning to all these new technological paradigms?
Oh, yes, sir. Resistance to change, mainly something that we can say that we could prefer to have a status quo rather than going ahead based on my preferences, my habits. There could be an inability, or we can also say reluctance to rely on something which I'm not so familiar with, something which I have not really mastered my art, or something that I have not really worked on. So these two, I think, should be the we can see are the barriers to adopting new technologies. Right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now let me just come back to Captain Kohli. Captain Kohli, how do you think we can structure these various training programs that acknowledge and require the need to unlearn certain practices while respecting the valuable expertise senior seafarers have developed over the years? And of course, another aspect probably is being discussed, but we'll also like to hear your thoughts on that. What role would shipboard training versus shore-based simulation play in the reskilling process for seafarers who have decades of practical experience?
Yeah, to unlearn is never been easy because it's part of your DNA. And I personally believe that as a lifelong learner, there is always space in you to learn. Certain habits, certain attitudes, certain traits of your personality can always be improved so that you're open to new ideas and new learning. So that is something where I again focus on HR skills, which you need to inculcate in senior seafarers as well as senior support level as seafarers, so that they are open to new ideas and they're open to new learning. In terms of, you mentioned shore-based training and simulator-based training, shipboard training and simulator-based training. There is merit in both, and both cannot be replaced. They both have their own merits. What I would also like to pick up on is something we heard a little earlier, is the attention span for any training is something around between 10 to 15 minutes. So every time I switch off my computer, it asks me if I would like to update and shut down, or update and restart. So instead of this being that, okay, I need to send you for a reskilling or a new learning every 6 months, let's make it a continuous process. Let's make it so accessible that every time I shut down, I can restart with a new learning. And I mean, I hope I have expressed that correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's really important is that they should want to unlearn and they should want to relearn. So making them understand that this is what is really required here. Captain Gandhi, you'd like to add something? No? Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just coming to you in any case. So you mentioned about the measurable benefit. What measurable benefits have you observed when companies invest in comprehensive reskilling programs for their senior seafarers? And of course, please extend this also to include what specific technologies or systems have presented the steepest learning curve for the senior seafarers, and how are these challenges being addressed so that they can be converted into opportunities?
Okay. The senior seafarers are the face of the company. They are the ones who deal with the charterers, the shippers, the port officials, the agents, the pilot. So if you have them, sufficiently trained, guided to deal with the new environment or the new technologies that are in place, then obviously when they deal with these, your supporters or your charterers, they can present a proper picture. So that's why it's very important. And when you're coming on the beneficial part, it becomes, your LTIF, your efficiency, your economy of scale, all that comes into play when you train them, and they can percolate down the training to the lower, the people who are under them. So leadership to be trained is very important and very necessary. That's how I look at it. Yes, as far as the new technology that is coming and what is the steepest, I would say if you're building a new ship, not a problem. But when you're going for retrofits, and like now they're going to convert standard ships, conventional ships, into methanol carriers. Now, methanol fueled vessels. That learning, because that's totally new, and that would be a little challenging. But yes, as the other panelists have said, seafarers are very adaptive. They can manage change. And the genesis of this goes to the linearity of the progression that you have. This is the only industry where you have 1 third officer, 1 second officer, 1 chief officer, 1 master. While if you have an industry, shore-based industry, it's a triangular shape. That's the base where you have the flow workers, then you have supervisors, then you have managers, then you have a group manager, and then on top you've got 1 CU. Here, each ship has got 1 CU. So they're used to this adaptability and they work very well with it. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we seem to be moving in the right direction. Maybe we have to keep on carrying out the various course correction as we go along and adapt ourselves to what all newer and more challenging requirements we may be confounded with, and try and convert them into opportunities. And now my last question of the panel, let me come to Mr. Vineet Gupta. We are focusing on what the future outlook would be. So how do you think the role of the senior seafarers may evolve over the next decade as vessels become increasingly connected and automated? And what specific opportunities do you see for senior seafarers to contribute their experiential knowledge to the development of new maritime technologies and systems?
Thank you, Sanjay. Irrespective of the technologies, what the technologies are about, they are about fuels, energy, connectivity, reporting, data. These are the new technologies. The seamanship is same, it's going to stay there. The operations of the vessel in terms of day-to-day work, maintaining the steel of the vessel is going to be same, nothing going to change. So the seafarer's main job will continue to be the same most of the time, except for a few people at some occasions for certain type of things they need training. But the core value stays, and that's where the seafarers and seamen come into picture. The more senior you are, the more experience you have got, you're going to use everything what you have and the new things more effectively and pass it on to the new generation. So it is not a loss of, in any case, more experienced people are not at loss, rather they are the beneficial people to pass the baton down the line to the next generation with the experience what they have gained over the period of time, irrespective of the change in technology, the variations, the improvements in the way you communicate, seamanship remains same. And that's all I want to add here. Nothing much longer than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to open the floor to the audience. Any questions from the audience? Yes, Captain Pradhan.
Yeah, thank you for the advice that I have to keep it short and sweet and no questions asked. I'm not asking more questions directly to Sunil Kumar. Yes, we always appreciate your efforts in IMO and the papers you doled out. On one of your papers right now, when you said about the competency certification, based certification, then the topic was raised by Nautical Institute UK saying that we'll try, if you do this simulator training, then we can reduce the on-board sea time on board from 12 months, they wanted to put it down to 11 months and it was shut down. But it is going to be again debated further in the working groups. So if this is the trend and they want to, then today it's 11 months they are talking from 12, then next day it's going to be 10, 9, you don't know, maybe 6 months with them. So I do not know whether that's going to be appreciated by everyone. So that's one. And Captain Gandhi, for you also, so that I don't have to keep asking again. Very nicely you mentioned about alternative fuels. I think in STW11 it was decided the training part, because what is happening is technology is coming in quick and fast, comprehensive reviews were there. We also had this gap analysis for 500, but nobody spoke about training. And when it came to alternative fuels, it was methanol, ethanol training that will be put in. When we had recently the Secretary General of IMO, Mr. Dominguez, who was here, and I did ask him, what about then the ammonia and hydrogen? Simple answer he gave, we don't have data, so we can't start the training. But then we are building up ships. We want our seafarers to operate these ships with these alternate fuels. If you don't, IMO doesn't have the training, and they said use the basic IGF code training, and that's good enough. I don't think that's, in my opinion. So I leave it to Mr. Sunil Kumar right now. Thank you very much.
So two
Thank
things.
you. Thank you very much.
Your first question was simulator versus sea time. So, of course, there was no conclusion drawn in the last meeting. So it will go on in correspondence group or working group. So, and primarily you could sense that the feeling was nothing can substitute the real life experience. That was the feeling being imposed by powerful countries. So it's not going to be total replacement, or majority part will still remain the real life seafaring over simulator. Simulator can aid, it cannot replace. So that is one.
Correct, correct.
The second question was ammonia and hydrogen. This time itself, we have already drafted the interim guidelines for ammonia and hydrogen. The specific to the particular fuel that will emerge, it has started, that has also started with methyl alcohol. So it's an ongoing thing, and you rightly, we all met Mr. Arsenio Dominguez this time in Mumbai. And yes, it's not easy with 13 fuel grades and 29 technologies under discussion. It's not going to be easy for either for the seafarer, or for ship operators to decide which fuel to go, what training to give. You have to like be very alert and watchful what is happening in the industry and keep correcting the course of.
Yeah, it is something similar to catching your own shadow.
Absolutely.
And still be
sir,
hopeful
absolutely.
of doing it. So anyway, I think we had time for 2 questions and one person asked both those questions. So do we have any more time, Shaukat, or shall we call it off? No, huh? Okay. So Shaukat is very, very clear that we can't go further. So I just follow what he tells me. So I think we would just like to have a very quick summary of it. I think number one, as we work towards IMO 2030 requirements, the reskilling of senior seafarers represents not merely a compliance challenge, but also an opportunity to enhance maritime safety, operational safety, and environmental performance. Secondly, we have recognized that effective reskilling is not about teaching new technologies. It is also about creating meaningful connections between established maritime expertise and emerging operational problems. Our senior seafarers possess a wealth of experience that remains invaluable, and successful adaptation builds upon rather than replaces this foundation. Thirdly, we have heard compelling evidence that investing in comprehensive reskilling programs yields measurable benefits in safety, efficiency, and also possibly crew retention. Fourthly, maritime industry has also adapted to change from sail to seam, from celestial navigation to GPS, and now to the digital and sustainable transformation ahead. Lastly, the future of maritime operations will ultimately be shaped by how effectively we bridge traditional seamanship into emerging technologies, and our senior seafarers stand at the critical intersection of this particular transformation. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all the panelists and all the distinguished panelists for their very valuable insights and for giving us insight into their wealth of wisdom and knowledge which they possess. And I'm sure it will be a very good experience for the entire audience, as it has been for me so far. And together, we have to ensure that the maritime industry's greatest asset, the knowledge and expertise of its people, continues to guide us safely through the waters of change. So I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish you all fair winds and following seas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well, I request all our panelists to please stay back because it's time to invite Captain Arun Mehta, MD, OSM Thom, and Captain Mr. Jitendra Rawat of Ganpat University to please come up on stage for the felicitation of our speakers along with Captain Shaukat Mukherjee.